Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The season 4 update gave us a ton of different meta changes, whether it was changing up the setup on a specific meta weapon or replacing a meta weapon with something else. We definitely saw some significant changes all across the board, and today we are breaking down the new top 10 best loadouts to be using here in season 4 of Warzone. As we go through it all, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, or if you're part of the 54% of viewers who have not already subscribed, every single day I got you covered with all things going on in COD, news, updates, loadouts, tips. You're gonna find it all right here, so feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. So getting into the loadouts here, first up I want to talk about the perks and equipment on my classes. This stays the same on all of my loadouts just to keep consistency for me personally. However, there are several options to run right now. So personally, in perk 1, I run cold-blooded simply to combat the combat scout spam. Now, yes, I am somewhat hypocritical there because I use combat scout, frankly, because if you're not using it, it's getting used on you, and it is incredibly annoying. I try and solo split a lot for my team, so running into a team that has combat scout, incredibly annoying. Also, having that in a 1v3, 1v4 can be very beneficial. We all know it's the most dominant and annoying perk in the game right now until it gets fixed. I unfortunately will be running it. I'd love to run amped or the newly buffed battle hardened, but there is a clear and concise meta for perk 3, and because of that, in perk 1 I feel like cold-blooded is incredibly useful. Serpentine though, also fantastic, as is double time and EOD. Of course, we're all running overkill, but as you'll notice towards the end of the video when we break down some of my more specific loadouts, I do have certain loadouts where I start off with restock or I start off with tempered because we have all the lootable perks. So you have several different options for this perk meta right now. As far as the tacticals and the lethals go, I'm always going for a throwing knife for those insta finishes on any map. That's just super crucial. Then for tacticals, again, this is more of a I'm on the dark side until it gets fixed kind of thing. Snapshots, there's a spam with them. They did get nerfed, but they're still way too powerful. That said, those stims still looking very solid. Stuns and flashes as well, you can spam those with restock and they're very dominant. So that's pretty much the same on all my setups as mentioned. But when it comes to our first actual weapon breakdown here, this particular build features the NZ and then also the hipfire Marco. You guys probably know this is the only Akimbo SMG we have in the game, and it is kind of crazy. I will break down a single Marco loadout that I think is probably a little bit better a little bit later on into the video, but if you want to mess around with Akimbo, Marco is the way to go right now, and it's pretty fun. As far as the NZ goes though, this is my newly updated build. I'm going for MX silencer. We're now switching over to the Orb Weaver barrel. This was broken before season 4. That's why everyone is using the burst barrel, but now this is fixed. It has better velocity all across the board, also super easy to use, so you want to be switching over to that. That's a key part of this setup. I like the 3 to 6 times scope. Other people like the 2.5 times, maybe the Slate 3.25 times. Totally comes down to preference there. E-Pack stock here is going to give you the best control possible, so this thing's going to be a laser beam. Hand stop, or if you want, you can do the strife angle for that better horizontal control. That's going to be very strong for that particular con that the gun has, which is a decent amount of horizontal bounce. But with this build, I don't really notice it all that much. Like, hand stop to me is working just fine. I'm going for the Sakura 50 here. Best control, best fire rate, better movement speed as well. Lengthened. Taped in particular after the update is also ridiculously good. If you want better control though, go for polymer as always. Frenzy, because all these perks kind of suck, and then also fully loaded on there as well for that max ammo. Then for our hipfire build here, we are starting off with a recoil booster because obviously we want to help out that fire rate. We're going for the 285 custom barrel because obviously better hipfire accuracy. It's going to do more for that than any of these other barrels would. Now, even though this is Akimbo, I have these scopes on here. I have the 2.5 times scope because it's going to help out with accuracy and control, which still applies to hip fires. So you can still run a scope here and gain benefits from that even if you're not ADSing. Going for the folding stock, better hip fire accuracy as a pro there, so we love to see that. We don't use an underbarrel, obviously. I go for the Nambu 64, better hip fire accuracy, but it's also the largest mag, and when we're spraying like we are with Akimbo and hip fire, you want to have a lot of ammo on reserve, right? Also going for frangible in case I get some of those stray bullets that can actually inflict that wounding effect, can help out in a gunfight where you're chasing somebody maybe. You could also use some sonic though if you wanted to. Pine tar grip, better hip fire accuracy yet again. Obviously the Akimbo perk, and then I go for quick. You could also go for fully loaded if you wanted to as well to maximize that ammo. But yeah, very fun first loadout here. Also though, for what it's worth, as we go through the remainder of the loadouts, you can flip-flop the primaries and the secondaries as you want. Now loadout 2, I do just have this as a backup with the NZ because let's face it, this is the best gun in the game right now. It's the same build as the first one, so we don't have to break that down again, but I do have the Blixen as a secondary here. I feel like the Marco and the Blixen are that 1 and 2 sub combo right now. You could probably make an argument for both of them as being the top choice, but all we got to look at here is this Blixen loadout. Now, I'm using the recoil booster as always to help out with that TTK. The RMK barrel here, now better than ever. They buffed the velocity on this, so it's going to feel even more consistent in those close and medium range fights. Obviously, you're not using this at long range, but it would in theory work there well as well because that velocity buff. But I mean, this thing it's clearly the best choice here. The TTK is absurd when you use this barrel. I like the basic slate reflector here. You could go for remove stock, but I've actually switched over to the MB recently just because with removed, the recoil cons here that you get make the weapon bounce around a little sporadically, and I noticed that I was just a lot more accurate with MB, and the mobility is still insane. So like this helps out a ton with that. I feel like it's the more balanced version, but if you're cracked, go for remove stock. It's definitely a great choice too. Hand stop is always for the better control. You could also use strife angle here though if you wanted to, because there is some horizontal bounce here. Garanko 54, clear choice as always. Lengthened or subsonic or frangible, whatever you prefer. Taped grip yet again for the better movement speed because that was buffed with the season 4 update. Also better sprint to fire. Basically, you want to run taped on all your subs now. Spoiler alert. Fleet I like for the better movement speed, but also weapon swap quickness because I'm not using amped. Then also quick on there for better sprint speed as well. Now loadout 3 here, I got the Vargo and I got the Armaguerra. Vargo actually got another buff with the season 4 update, which is kind of crazy. This thing's the best non-Vanguard rifle in the game, and Armaguerra, arguably a top 3 SMG behind the Blixen and the Marco right now, so you can't go wrong with either of these. Vargo setup though, we all know this by now. Like, do I even gotta say it? It's a Cold War rifle. Of course, it's the GRU Suppressor Task Force Spetsnaz 60 and the 3x optic. That's never gonna change until the end of time, right? Then on the Armaguerra, honestly, it's the same setup that I've been running for quite some time here with the change over to taped grip. Recoil booster, the precision barrel here is gonna give you that best TTK up close. Body, in theory, would have like the ultimate TTK, but you're gonna miss more shots with this because the recoil is not super ideal. So to me, precision is going to give you the best realistic TTK out there. Slate reflector as always. Skeletal stock on here for some of that better movement speed. Really fast. Joe was the one that really got me on that. I was watching him play with that, and it's like the movement with the strafe speed, insane. Hand stop 9mm60, lengthen, subsonic, whatever ammo you want on there. Taped grip as mentioned. Hard scope here for the better control, and then also quick for that better mobility once more. Now real quick, as we get to the gamer advantage loadout here, shout out to Gamer Advantage. You guys see me wearing these frames in every single face cam video. I'm currently rocking the Terra frames. I also have the Horizons, which I love as well. These are a part of the sustainability collection. They're better for your eyes. They're better for your sleep. They're better for the earth. W's all around, man. If you ever want to get a pair for yourself, they offer prescription or regular lenses, tons of different frame options with different colorways, and code Immortal always gets you a discounted checkout. Link for that will be down in the description below. Now, obviously, we're using the Blixen here again, so we don't have to go over that loadout. You'll notice that it's a pretty defined meta here where I am actually reusing several weapons, not because you know, there's not other good choices. There's just no reason to not use these over the other ones. Like, there are a clear few weapons at the top that are just better than everything, but you'll see as we get to some of the other ones, I do try and switch it up here and there. But for the STG, honestly, while it did get some nerfs with the season 4 update, it is still feeling very strong. Top 3, top 4 AR still. You could argue this between the NZ, I think that's a clear number 1, the Bar, the Vargo, and the STG. I'd say that's probably the top 4. You could make certain arguments there beyond, you know, into 5 and 6 and 7, but it's still great when it comes down to it. Like I said, same setup as before though. MX silencer, 760 barrel, 2.5x optic. The precision stock here, weighted, you don't really need with polymer on there. It's just not a useful stack. So precision here helps out with that ADS speed. You could also even try folding if you wanted to. If you wanted to see if you can really increase that movement speed, but keep a decent control stat on there, it does work, especially for like Fortune's Keep, honestly. Hand stop, Garanko 50 for no recoil whatsoever. Lengthens polymer, nerves of steel for the better control while injured, which is every single gunfight. Then also fully loaded once more. Now next up, we got the Bar, and we've got my true meta build for the Marco 5. Bar, as I just mentioned, it's a top 4 rifle in the game right now. It actually got some buffs to the meta build, which is extremely convenient, right? This thing is a little bit awkward because it is slower to shoot, but it hits like a truck. It's got an incredible TTK at all ranges, especially from like 0 to 30, 35, 40 meters, somewhere in that mark. It fries. Like, the thing is ridiculously good. Here we are going for MX silencer. If you really want to get flashy with it, you could try recoil booster. Your control is just going to be a little bit different. 30-inch barrel here, better control, better velocity, so you love to see that. 3 to 6 times scope. Again here, you can zoom all the way into 6 times, and because the recoil is so little, you can still fry with it, which I just love to see. I actually use the wire stock for better sprint to fire and movement. Primarily here, I'm looking at that movement speed just to make it a little bit more aggressive, because the recoil is so easy. You don't need chariot. You don't need any of these other options on there. Hand hand stop for the better control. Clouser 40 is the only mag worth running here. They did nerf the BMG one, so Clouser 40, absolute key part of this setup. Lengthened, polymer, hard scope, same deal as before over on the Armaguerra, better control during sustained ADS, and then also fully loaded on there too. Then when it comes to the Marco 5, this is my go-to setup at the moment. There are some different ways to build this for what it's worth, so it does come down to preference a bit, but recoil booster obviously helping out with that fire rate. The 240 barrel here, better fire rate against. We're going for max TTK, max aggression on this build. That said, a lot of players are running the less so 355 because you have insane mobility with it. That's a good choice. Also for like more of a sniper support build, 342 is a pretty good option as well because its recoil is just so minimal, but for max aggression, 240 I think is the way to go. Slate reflector yet again. I like the Asada stock, the Perfetto Asada, just because it helps out with the control. These other ones actually hurt your control a little bit, and with the max fire rate build here, it's a little bit iffy in some fights. So to me, this is just bringing some consistency to the build. Hand stop, the Nambu 64 is my preferred choice. 48 is also though totally viable. It's just your basic extended mag. Subsonic or lengthened or frangible, whatever you want there. Taped again. Gung Ho here because it's going to give us that instant sprint to fire. Obviously, we lose that with some of the other attachments like the stock, so we gain back that, and it is just super aggressive. And then also quick or fully loaded on there as well. Both of those are great choices. Moving on here, we got the brand new UGM8 LMG, the second new weapon for season 4. Then also the MP40, which wasn't touched in the season 4 update. Still an absolute beast when it comes down to it. As far as the UGM8 goes, you guys can see I'm only level 57. That's really all you need, I think, for the most optimal build here. So starting off with the MX silencer, basic stuff there for long range, keeping us off the map, giving us better control. The barrel here is where it gets weird. Now, I've been using the burst barrel. However, it's not like it is on the NZ where you can toggle it full auto. This is a continuous burst barrel where you don't have to spam between every burst pulling down the trigger. You can just hold it down. It'll continue the burst fire for you. So it's relatively easy to use because of that. But the big part here is that no damage drop off. This thing, 50, 60, 70, 80 meters, is going to be able to outgun other top options because of that no damage drop off stat. Now that said, if you want just a consistent fully auto build that's got no recoil, go for the 736. That's a good choice too, but to me, this makes it fun to use, but also very strong in certain fights, right? Also going for the 3 to 6 times here. The anchor stock, I think is how this is pronounced, just better control during sustained fire. Hand stop, the British 75 round drums here. I don't feel like you need 125. It's going to slow you down a little bit too much. This is already kind of slow, but better fire rate, better control. You'll love to see that. Lengthened, stippled actually because of the burst. It helps out with that recoil recovery, so I feel like that's going to make you a little bit more accurate. You could always use polymer too though if you want. Tight grip for the better control, and then also fully loaded on here as well. In theory, you could build a hip fire build for this LMG and just go crazy with the last barrel, then also gung ho, but I probably would not recommend that because this is Warzone, and it's just you're gonna get outgunned by Akimbos and other subs. And then for the MP40, it's the same build we've been using, but again with that switch over to taped. So recoil booster, the short barrel, slate reflector, the folding stock, skeletal underbarrel for the snappier ADS, Gorenko 45 lengthened or subsonic or whatever other ammo you want to use. Taped grip, key part of the change there. Steady because all these perks kind of suck. I guess you could use perfectionist too if you wanted. Then quick on there as well per usual. I did want to include one sniper loadout here just because I get asked a lot about snipers. I truly despise the sniper meta right now because none of them feel good. I'd say the lesser of all evils though is the ZRG, and the Mac-10, one of my all-time favorite guns, got a slight range buff with season 4, so it's better for sniper support than ever before. So of course we got to feature that here. For the ZRG build here, I'm going for RATT suppressor. You could also, I believe, do sound moderator, and that's going to give you a snappier ADS and really doesn't hurt your velocity and hurt your stats out for long range. So you could go either of those, whatever you prefer. Combat recon barrel is a must-have. 5 milliwatt laser for that snappier ADS. The base optic zooms in way too much for my liking, so I go for the Royal and Cross 6 times. And then a 3-round mag is just not going to cut it, so you got to go for a 5-round mag on here as well. Then for the Mac-10, we're going for speed, but also we want decent sniper support as well. So agency suppressor and task force barrel on there for that. Tiger team for the better mobility, the 53-round drum, and then also the serpent rat for that faster ADS. Really solid sniper support though. Like I said, basic recoil pattern, great mobility. I love this thing. It's one of my all-time favorites, as I said. And then for these final 3 loadouts, they're more so my regain loadouts, or if I'm just feeling good off the rip and I have maybe a good ground loot gun, or if I just want to go all in and go mad aggressive, I'll go for the hay or the high loadouts here, where I'm basically swapping out overkill for the amp secondary on both these class setups, then restock or tempered. Now, usually I wouldn't be using a Fara or a QBZ on these setups. I'd be using something like the NZ or the STG or the bar, but I did want to talk more about some of these other top tier meta rifles rather than just repeating the same classes, right? So first up, the amp. This is the same build on both classes. Obviously, Agency, Task Force, Tiger Team, 30 round Serpent. Same deal as actually over on the Mac-10. Then, as mentioned, I got tempered here. So if I find restock ground loot, I'm going to grab this loadout. If I have, you know, a decent amount of kills off the rip, I'm going to probably grab this loadout and be ready for it. Or same deal with restock. If I find tempered on the ground, I'll grab this, vice versa, right? As far as the Fara goes, see what I did there? Grew Suppressor, RPK, Spetsnaz 63 times. No one's surprised by this setup or the QBZ setup, which is surprisingly the exact same. Obviously sarcasm. Agency, Task Force, Field Agent 63 times. It never changes and it's kind of boring, but hey, these guns, the QBZ and the Fara, are both very competitive in this current meta, so you could absolutely use them. They're a little bit off meta from, say, the Vanguard stuff, where it's no recoil, super easy. These have a little bit more personality to them, but they have great TTKs. And then lastly, I have my other regain loadout. If I'm coming back from the goo, or if I just need to get a quick class that's got restock and fully loaded for my rifle and my pistol, I'll go ahead and grab this. Got the Automaton on here, pretty basic setup. MX silencer, 600mm barrel for better control, 3 to 6 times padded stock for better control, tight grip for better control, fully loaded to maximize that rifle ammo so that I can, you know, go get my old loot if I need to and have max ammo, or just use this. Polymer for better control, 75 round drum, extended mag, lengthened, and hand stop. And then I have the RATT as a secondary here just because it got that buff with season 4, so it's pretty solid. On here, I'm going for Strife, the 98mm barrel for the better damage, hair trigger for the faster fire rate, 9mm 20 subsonic fabric, or you could go taped as well if you wanted to. Both of those are pretty solid. Then acrobatic, and again, the important part here, fully loaded to maximize that SMG and pistol ammo. Realistically, I won't ever use this pistol. I'll go for like a ground loot Owen or a Blixen if I find one of those on the ground. But that said, it's there if I absolutely need it, just to maximize that ammo again. Now, while these are my go-to loadouts, there are some other very solid options in all categories, honestly. For the rifles, things like the Vanguard rifles in general, I think, are particularly competitive still. The Volk is not bad. Obviously, we got the Automaton. Cooper for sniper support's feeling very good, as is the Nikita. Then for subs, there's several that I didn't mention in this video that you could also easily run with that are top choices. The PPSH, great TTK. The Owen with no barrel and the 60-round drums, great TTK. Type 100, fastest killing sub in the game, basically great TTK, a little bit harder to use, but absolutely works. Wellgun, good for sniper support. So there are plenty of options here for other builds that aren't necessarily all featured here that we've talked about before, if you absolutely want to go and check out the builds for those. But right now, this is what I'm using. I think it's a very defined meta. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the most exciting or healthy for the game, but it is what it is. That's going to wrap things up. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you found the video helpful. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.